recuse myself and I'll be back when this matter is over. So
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. So I guess as a way of background for members of the public that may be logging in, Watertown voted yes 2016 to allow recreational marijuana in Watertown. Because of that yes vote, Watertown was only permitted under state regulation to allow so many establishments in the town. That number is 3 based off of our liquor license number, which is based on our population. I guess long story short, NSAGO Holdings was the first one to come forward and the first to receive a license. That license was granted for 23 Elm Street. Since that time, the Committee on Economic Development and Planning has entertained other applications for other areas in town. Again, it's capped at 3 based on the council rules, which are under the purview of the state regulations. And Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the feeling of the Committee on Economic Development and Planning when considering the other applications was having marijuana dispensaries in different areas of town. So we had 4 applications in front of us, and we chose one that was located in Watertown Square and one that was in the West End on Pleasant Street. So we're here tonight because the location at 23 Elm Street is no longer going to be working for NSAGO Holdings, and they are looking to have our HCA amended so that we can approve them moving over to 390 Arsenal Street. If I use acronyms, anyone feel free to jump in. HCA's host community agreement. So that's what we're considering tonight. Lisa, is there anything else on that history that you want to add in?
Just, well, no, I think you covered it, except I was just going to say that, you know, with the criteria with the marijuana, that, yeah, we were hoping to kind of spread them through town, but there's only a few places that they can really go. And
that's a
but
great
we
point.
did work diligently to come up with some criteria that we thought was fair and made sense. So
Absolutely. And that's even a better point. What Councilor Felton was just mentioning, we zone them so they can only go in particular areas. They have to be in our major commercial corridors. They can't be X amount of feet from certain recreation or from where schools are. So tonight, what we're looking at is a proposal from 23 Elm Street, which is, if, I guess if I'm giving directions, it's right behind the new hotel, and moving over to 390 Arsenal, which is a half a mile, almost exactly down the road in Arsenal, where the muffler facility is now. So that's the background. I guess Councilor Palumbo, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, no, I want to ask permission from you as the chair in the committee, if I might say something. I have another meeting that I have to be at. Is it possible that I could say something? I wanted to say that I strongly support this, and I hope that the committee will support it also. I think that the folks have done a wonderful job on Elm Street. I believe that they have been good neighbors. I think they show that they know how to operate a medical facility, and I know they would have done the same if they had an opportunity to operate a recreational facility. So I just want to put my 2 cents in early on to say that I hope the committee will see this as more of a technical issue than a major change. They're moving less than a half a mile away to a spot that's been unused and has been abandoned, but has been no business in it for quite a while. It's on a major thoroughfare. It is a good building that will be renovated, not raised. I think there'll be plenty of parking at that facility, and I think they will be able to successfully continue their operation of their medical marijuana dispensary and begin to operate their recreational one with no problem. And I think it is a benefit to the town to have them be, they put a lot of money and time into Elm Street, and they got a curveball thrown at them. And I think they handled that curve quite well, that curve ball quite well. And they rebounded to another place in Watertown, which fits into the criteria that has been discussed already. So I appreciate the indulgence of the chair and the members of the committee for allowing me to strongly state my support for this this move. Thank you.
Absolutely. No
Thank
problem.
you.
I guess it's probably pertinent, and Tony, thank you for kind of segueing that in well. We have a attachment that was sent over to the town in our November 10th town council committee meetings, the minutes there, and the attachment will show all the details for this new location. And I think what Tony was alluding to there, if folks didn't know the background, it's in that document, but the location 23 Elm is being renovated. They're not extending the lease for NSAJO beyond 2022, and so they need a new location. So I think what I'll do first is open it up to myself and Councilor Feltner if there's any questions that we have initially.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Sorry.
Just so you know, this is Mike Ross. I'm the attorney for the applicant. We do have a presentation that we are prepared to share if you want it. We came ready, and we have our team here as well. Or we can just, take questions from the committee. Of course, it's your committee.
Honestly, I'll defer to Councilor Feltner. I read those 40 pages.
We have I think an 8-page kind of PowerPoint, which will kind of give you just a high level, but totally your call.
Councilor Feltner, what do you think?
I think it's good for the public record for them to present a summary.
Sure. Yeah, I'm indifferent, but if you think it'll be beneficial, then let's start with that, and we can move forward with questions after.
Okay, great. Well, let me just set the table if I can, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll hand it off to my colleagues. I just want to thank you and as well as committee member Feltner and Piccarelli, and as well as the other counselors who I think are joining, obviously Councilor Palumbo and Donato, and I see Director Magoon on the call. We appreciate all your advice and working with you here to 4. We have our team here assembled today to just give a quick presentation and answer any questions you might have. Again, I'm the attorney on the team, Mike Ross, with the Law Office of Prince Lobel. Aidan O'Donovan, who started this all off, is our CEO. He's just going to kick off a quick comment and then turn it over to Alex Hardy, who's our COO, who's going to give the presentation. We also have Tyler Vines, who's a director level member of our team, and Dan Linsky, who is our security advisor and has been with the project since its beginning. So I'll turn it over to Aidan for his comments, and then we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think I'm hearing loud and clear that we should keep this somewhat short and sweet. So good to see everybody. I mean, I obviously know you guys. The 3 of you have all been on the council since I started this process. I think 4 years ago, Mike. So you guys know me. Some of you might have spoken with or met Alex and or Tyler at some point along the way. You've definitely met Dan Linsky before, who's here, our director of security. But I think Alex is going to kind of give the presentation, and it's just like Mike said, just an 8-page PowerPoint. We'll run through it real fast, and then we can field some questions. So, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you all. I actually I do have this presentation. I did put a little work into it, so that's great. Although I have to say, between Councilor Woodland and Councilor Palumbo and Feltner, I feel like there isn't much left to say, but I'll go through it as quickly as I can, just for the public record, as we say. So if it's okay, I will go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. I think if I do this, and then I do this, can you all tell me if you are seeing what I would like you to be seeing?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. So this is just our introduction. I don't think a lot of you folks have been inside our current facility. It is medical only. If you don't have a medical card, you probably haven't been in it as a customer. Of course, at any point, I would be happy to host any member of the council and give you guys a little tour.
But just to sort of talk a little bit very briefly about our history, as you all know, Aiden started Natural Selections back in 2015. He is a Newton native. I'm a Cambridge native, but you know, Aiden started this out in North Glen, Colorado. Tyler has been with him the entire time, or with us the entire time. Today, we are on Elm Street as Natural Selections, but we're actually much more than that. We've partnered with a company called Ethos out in Philadelphia. They're Philadelphia based. They're a medical cannabis company, very well respected. They're actually the first clinical registrants in the state. So they have a very strong partnership with Jefferson Health. We do a lot of research around cannabis and medical cannabis and the use of cannabis to help manage pain, to help manage opioid addiction, all sorts of really exciting, cutting edge scientific research. And then out in Fitchburg, we have our grow facility, which is also an adult use dispensary that's operating under the name Ethos Cannabis. You can see a nice picture of our grow and of the facility out there. The team, who I think you've kind of already all met, Aiden, obviously. Brandon is our other founder. He unfortunately is not able to be here tonight. He's traveling. Dan, our security advisor, myself, and as I mentioned, Tyler Vines, our director of retail, who's been with the company since its inception in 2015. And then finally, I put up a nice picture of our team members there in Watertown. So we're really excited to be here. We're adding to our team as we prepare to transition to adult use soon. But these are the folks who have been involved all along and who you will see every day as you come by. Just a little bit about our current operation. We are on Elm Street. We're open every day with the exception of Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're open 10 to 8, 10 to 5 on the weekends. It is a multi-use property. There are 3 buildings on the property. There are 6 units. 1 is empty, so we share the property with 5 tenants. We have 22 parking spaces designated for ourselves. We estimate about 250 customers per day. Once we add adult use, we're obviously less than that at just medical. Our average transaction time is about 6 minutes, and 50% of our orders come online. So, and actually the nice thing about using technology and online ordering is that it does help us if we ever have any need to adjust timing. We can sort of skew folks based on their pickup to sort of even out the traffic flow for the day. And then the last thing I'll just point out is that we have had 0 incidents to date. There have been no diversion issues, no security issues, no issues with the CCC, no issues with the Watertown Police Department, no issues with traffic. It's really gone swimmingly smooth so far. Unfortunately, we are here tonight because the entire property, all 3 buildings, have been sold for redevelopment. And at the end of January 2022, so 13 months from now, unfortunately, we are forced to move somewhere else. And we're hoping that move is 390 Arsenal Street. And just one more note on adult use. We are really close. We actually had our final walkthrough inspection with the CCC this week on Tuesday. We are literally waiting for them to issue us our commence operations notice. We don't have a date on that. We don't know when it's going to come to us. And when we get it, we'll be able to open 4 days later. But we really are thinking that it will be this month. The staff is trained and ready to go. We've been staffing up for this. And we do have a full opening plan that has been shared actually with Director Magoon and also importantly Chief Lawn. And actually I know that our team has talked to him as recently as today, but he's had this plan for a couple of weeks. We've talked through it. He's very comfortable with our transition from medical to adult use. The town has been a fantastic partner to us, and I certainly hope that we have been and believe we've been an equally good partner as well. So we're really excited about this. Just real quick, I just thought I would throw up for the record some of the reviews that we've been getting. This is just sort of a sampling of the reviews. The thing I love about this is every single review we get, with almost without exception, talks about our staff, how helpful our staff is, how friendly our staff is, how wonderful our staff is. I should have highlighted all where it says staff everywhere. The other thing I'm really actually proud of is you can see Greg's comment down there. He says, all precautions were taken for COVID-19. Another thing that I'm personally very proud of, I think our team has done a fantastic job of really handling this year. It's been a tough one for all of us, but I'm really happy about how we've handled it. So talking a little bit, sort of going back to, okay, we're here because we're not going to be able to stay where we are. Councilor Woodland has talked already a little bit about the 3 licenses in Watertown. All 3 licenses at this point, or HCAs, I should say, have been awarded. We're the only fully licensed and operating dispensary at this particular point. But you guys, I think, did a really smart thing. And you selected 3 geographic areas for your 3 licensees. We are the licensee on the east end of Watertown. We are looking to stay on the east end of Watertown within the same zone. And we are looking to move, and I believe it is just a hair under a half a mile, as Councilor Woodland mentioned. So really not a disruptive move for us, a disruptive move for our customers, hopefully not a disruptive move for the city as well. Little bit about 390 Arsenal. It is the old abandoned Monroe Muffler spot. It's been vacant for over 5 years. It is a bit of an eyesore, but we're going to be putting all things, if we're allowed, we plan to put in over $1 million to beautify this property. We've already put, as Councilor Palumbo said, we've already put a bunch of money into Elm Street. It's sad that we don't get to really see that investment pay off. But we're going to do it again. We're going to put $1 million, more than $1 million into this property. One of the really great things about this property, by the way, is right now I mentioned we have 22 parking spots, which is really ample. But here we actually believe we have 29 parking spaces. We're going to be redoing the whole site. All of the landscaping, all of the parking lot, everything is going to be redone with new traffic flow. 29 parking spaces, so really tons of parking. Easy access from a main road. We did have a traffic study done, and you can see the little excerpt in the bottom corner. The short conclusion is that really our use is not really expected to impact traffic or traffic flow on Arsenal Street. So there shouldn't be much disruption there. And then the other thing that I think is important to note is that at 390 Arsenal, we have full control over the facility. We are the only tenant. As you know, we control corner to corner, inside of the building, outside of the building. Our security can really impact who comes onto the property, who leaves the property. We're not sharing it with anybody. So that kind of control really helps us maintain a safe, secure, and friendly, welcoming environment. Little operational summary. A lot of this is repeat stuff. You can see our proposed floor plan there in the corner and how customers sort of flow in and out of the building. But I do want to point out, we are an experienced and already approved operator. Not only have we been open in Watertown with no incidents, but also our Fitchburg facility and our 6 facilities in Pennsylvania. Same thing. We know what we're doing at this point. I believe. I already mentioned we've worked very closely with Chief Lon on our opening strategy when we opened for medical in August, or really it was July 28th. So But in August, this month, when we open for adult use, we've been working very closely with the town as well. We'll obviously continue to do that. We're going to continue to use technology to help us manage our traffic flow and our customer flow. We've got some experience doing that. Again, with the parking we have and a 6-minute average transaction time, it's hard to imagine that it's going to be really pushed to its limit. But we do have the ability to sort of move through that sort of stuff. And then again, we have a strong security presence and plan. Dan Linsky, a well-known commodity to everybody on this call and everybody in town. He's been fantastic. Worked with us from day one on this, designed all of our security systems, will be instrumental in designing this one as well. As well as coming up with all of our security standard operating procedures and our processes and our staff. We also have a good neighbor policy. This is something really important to us as well. It's an expectation, a contract between us and our customers that really reinforces our expectations. Our expectations that they won't loiter around the property, our expectations that they won't use product on or near our property or in a public place. And we have a hotline available if, and certainly, anytime that we find anybody who has strayed from what we consider to be our good neighbor policy, we don't accept them as customers anymore. We have the right to turn away anybody. And we have thankfully not had to do that yet, but we're certainly ready and willing. And then, again, been good operators so far, and I have no reason to think that we won't be in the future. We really have the systems in place, I think, to continue to operate as well and securely as we have. I do want to say, we've started to get to know some of our neighbors. I've been very pleased at how welcoming everybody has been so far. We had a meeting with the MCA. We actually met with their entire board, talked them through some of our plans. I think there's some real opportunities for us to work together. I think the new executive director over there, Darren Farrington, he's a great guy. We're actually talking about a potential partnership in early spring on a project. So that I think is really good. We have our community outreach meeting. I know I've said I've gone out and introduced myself and talked to a bunch of these folks already. We obviously are doing a community outreach meeting. We have that tentatively planned for January 6th. And barring anybody at this meeting saying, oh no, that's a terrible idea, I think we're going to set that in stone and go ahead and do our public announcement on that front. So finally, I'll just say, we really appreciate having been the first licensed and now open dispensary in town. We certainly are sorry that we have to move, but we're very excited to move to 390. I think 390 Arsenal is actually, in a lot of ways, a better spot for us and for the town than Elm Street, where we are right now. One of the nice things about a seamless transition from one location to the next is the continuation of our commitment through our HCA of over 3% of our revenue going back to the town. And that really comes in two pieces. For the medical piece, it's an annual payment on the anniversary of our medical opening. So that's August. That's probably going to be, we anticipate, somewhere in the range north of $100,000, probably $150,000-ish. And then in January, assuming we're able to open this month, a year from January, we should be looking about double that for adult use. So I think it's a significant contribution to the town. And we're excited, we're excited to make it. And beyond that, we have lots of partnerships and corporate giving initiatives, with a lot of our other partners. We've worked a little bit with the Watertown Community Foundation. We did a program in October with Ellie's Fund. So, above and beyond our commitments in the HCA, we are really happy to be a part of the Watertown community and are really trying to dive in and dig into that. So I appreciate you guys giving us a couple minutes to run through that presentation for you. I hope if there were any questions, maybe that's addressed a few of them, but if you guys are all set, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and just say thank you.
Great, thank you. Could you also, by any chance, just send the presentation to the committee? That way, Vinny can attach it to the minutes.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Great. I'll start. Councilor Feltner, did you have any follow-up questions?
Not really. Thank you very much. I'm sure you'll take more questions at the community meeting. I was mostly pleased to hear that you're actively meeting with the police department, Chief Lon, and that's going well in looking at the new location and anticipating those needs, and also already reaching out to the neighbors. I know we don't. I guess I was just gonna, if you want to share anything learned or concerned on the new spot that you're looking at, but I'm sure you've talked about those things as you've indicated in your presentation with key personnel and neighbors and staff. So I really appreciate all the work you did sharing with us and the public tonight, and look forward to seeing you in January.
Thank you.
I think the only thing I'll follow up with that is, I think Councilor Palumbo said it really well when he said this is kind of like a technical amendment. We already did a deep dive into the security, into the issue of recreational and medicinal, and we've already had these conversations, and you're following what we set, this committee had set for the town. We want 3 dispensaries, and we want one in the West End, one in the East End, one in the middle of town. So it's kind of straightforward for me. So what I'll do is I'll open it up for any questions, comments from anyone attending, and I see Councilor Canellis has her hand up.
Thank you. I apologize. I logged on a few minutes after the meeting had commenced. You indicate, Mr. Hardy, that you would be the only tenant. Are you purchasing the parcel or are you a tenant?
We have an option to purchase the property, and we are actually currently in our due diligence phase. So we won't be acting on that option until January or February. But we do anticipate, barring any sort of unforeseen derailment, that we have an option, and we do expect to be exercising it. But we're not under an obligation. We have an arm's length lease with the current owner that's fully in effect, plus the option to purchase the property if we want.
If you were not to purchase the property, any idea as to a term for lease?
It's currently a 10-year term with an additional 10-year option on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it's technically 2 5-years, but it's 10 and 2 5s.
Okay, and you also mentioned of the upcoming community meeting on January the 6th. Was that scheduled through the Department of Community Development and Planning? I'm not aware of it.
It was not scheduled yet. That's a tentative date. We actually were going to file tomorrow. We wanted to wait until this meeting to see if anybody had, I don't know, any reason why that wasn't a good date.
Well, if you could keep me in the loop, I'd appreciate it. I am the district counselor. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Counselor, I'll fall on that sword. Our purpose of socializing that date was actually to come here tonight, and we were almost certain that you were going to be here. So we haven't told that date to anyone other than just checked in with Steve Magoon's office or Gideon's office, or one of them or both of them, just to make sure that there wasn't some big event that day or something. But other than that, we really wanted to come here tonight and make sure there weren't any issues. And we assumed you were going to be here. So that's kind of that.
Thank you for making that presumption. Have you spoken with any of the immediate abutters?
Yeah, I mean, Alex can speak to that, and I think he just did, but go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I should pull the slide. I should pull the slide back up. You know, we have been able to speak with a bunch of the abutters. Certainly, I think the most significant is the MCA across the street. They're a very big and influential neighbor. We've had a couple of meetings with them, including a full presentation to their board. And then, you know, there's an auto body shop next door to us. Actually, he may end up being one of our better customers, quite frankly. And then I spent some time with Woody Giesman over at Right Turn. I love what he's doing. He's just such a great guy. So, you know, he and I have had good conversations as well. So yeah,
And what was-
we're
what
definitely
were his
getting to know our
thoughts?
neighbors. You know, we certainly look forward to the community meeting and speaking to anybody else from the public that wants to come out and talk to us.
And what were the thoughts from Right Turn?
Well, actually, interestingly, you know, we talked a little bit about his program. We're doing a research study right now on using cannabis to help people work through the symptoms of withdrawal during trying to get off opioids. I'm sorry, I'm not great at the scientific terms here. You know, he actually was very supportive of what we're doing. He's talked a lot about how he promotes in his program that any of his folks who are going to use cannabis should do it from a reputable and legal source such as ourselves. You know, so I think he's a nice guy. I certainly don't want to speak for him, but we had a very pleasant conversation. He said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." So I don't know. I don't want to speak for him, but it was a great conversation. He seems like a nice guy and certainly didn't seem to have any real concerns.
I see Councilor Donato's hand up next.
Thank you, Councilor Woodland. I just wanted to, I guess, reiterate some of the points that Councilor Palumba made earlier. I think this is a significantly better location than the current location. This was actually my preferred location during the second round of licenses, but I fully understood why this committee and then the council ended up endorsing the other two locations. So I'm happy to see that this one is back before us, you know, for many of the reasons that Councilor Palumba mentioned, but also that were mentioned during the presentation. I think it's a much better situation that it's a standalone building where Natural Selections is going to have control of the whole building. I think the parking's better. I think it will just work a lot better from a traffic flow perspective. And to your point a few minutes ago, this is, in my mind, really just a technical change. The applicant's already been vetted. We've had them jump through all the hoops we needed them to. And I think it just makes sense to approve this. I think it's going to be better for the applicant, but also much better for the town. Thank you.
Next, I see Steve Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify one point about the community meeting. You know, one of the things that in my response back to the applicant was that that I didn't have anything that conflicted with that date on my calendar, but you know, they needed to reach out to the district counselor, and the district counselor may have other things that may not even be on the town calendar or my calendar that could conflict, and obviously that's going to drive the meeting date. The other aspect of that is we need to make sure that there's enough time between when we advertise it and when we hold a community meeting, and we need to make sure that that's adequate for people to, you know, get notice and attend the meeting and not have it, you know, come too quick upon the date. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Great, thank you. Anyone else from the public want to speak? Councilor Donato, did you have another comment, or is your hands are still up?
Sorry about that. I'll lower my hand. I apologize.
Oh, okay. No, just making sure. Okay. I don't see any other hands. Give it another second. Okay. Steve, am I right in thinking that a motion from this committee would be something to the effect of recommending the full town council authorize the manager to amend the HCA with NSAJO Holdings?
That would be correct. Obviously we also have two processes that'll have to follow that. One,
Yeah.
obviously they need to have a community meeting. And typically that would happen before the council would approve or authorize the manager to execute HCA. The other would be having the special permit process that they'll need to go through once they have an HCA approved by the council.
So you, I don't know if
Lisa,
we
are
make
you?
a motion then that we recommend the NSAJO Holdings proceeds through the process as outlined and come before the town council as appropriate during that process at the appropriate time?
Yeah, would it be weird if we made the recommendation and just made it contingent upon the holding of a community meeting?
That certainly could
Would that
happen.
be okay? That way we don't have to like meet again as a committee.
Yeah, and that'll happen
Just to do
before,
this.
it would be before we'll make sure that happens before it's before the full council.
Okay. Okay. So could I get a motion that pending a community meeting, the full town council authorize the town manager to approve an amendment to the HCA of NSAJO Holdings to move from 23 Elm Street to 390 Arsenal Street?
So moved.
I will second that motion. And then any discussion, Lisa? Yes. Oh, okay. So what to do? A roll call. Councilor Feltner.
Yes.
Myself. Yes. Okay. So that's unanimous 2-0.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, everyone, for coming for the presentation. And as Councilor Canellis mentioned, just make sure to keep the team in the loop for the community meeting. And I'm sure we'll see you again when this comes before the council.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thanks, everybody.
You as well.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you soon. Happy holidays.
We'll get Vinny back in here. And then we'll let everyone sign off so we can move on to the next issue.
I'm back.
Hey.
Okay. Let's see here. Give everyone an extra second. Vinny, are you okay with everything with the minutes?
Yep, everything
So,
for us is okay.
Okay. Great. So again, if I jump off in the middle of this issue, I'm sorry. I have a hard stop at 6:55. I think that the rest of the team is able to take this on. So our second issue tonight is the discussion of DCR road closures, and I think more specifically, I guess I'll turn it over to Steve to kind of give the history, if that's okay, and talk a little bit about the letter the council received, and then what we're looking to have the committee do this evening.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Councilor. As we got into the pandemic particularly, and with so many people working from home and commuting patterns changing very dramatically, there was a lot of interest around the Boston metropolitan region to look for opportunities to take advantage of that reduction in traffic and create opportunities that enhance either pedestrian or bicycle use of facilities. And I think there's examples again around the region where some efforts happen. The one we're talking about tonight is particular to Little Greeno Boulevard, where DCR did close that for a period of time. It allowed for people using the Charles River corridor to either bicycle or run or walk, and to do that in a more spread out fashion, take advantage of the road right away in order to do that. As you're maybe aware, then DCR discontinued that closure opened it back up. And the conversation amongst the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee was desire to really see that become, that road closure return either in a permanent fashion or at least in some subset of, either weekends or things of that nature. So they sent that petition on to the state delegation to take that case to DCR. I think the further conversation about that, I think there's been at least a couple of areas of feedback we've gotten. There's concern about how that does or doesn't reflect the traffic patterns and capacity associated with some of the development projects in the area and their impacts on the road network. And if we took out this link, how would that impact the assumptions and the recommendations of the mitigation associated with some of those projects? That's one aspect. I think there's been a lot of conversation on both sides of the issue, depending on how you want to look at it, in terms of the use of it and what level of use it gets. I've heard comments both that it is, when closed, it was a wonderful resource source and well used. I've heard some other people say, well, it was closed and nobody used it at all. So, I'm certainly not going to play judge to that, the dichotomy of those two comments. Also, and I won't speak for Councilor Canellis, but I know she also entered some comments and had her concerns about the closure of Greeno, and again relating it back to the concerns about some of the development taking place and what traffic impacts that might have on it. I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. I think what the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee is looking for from the committee tonight and the council is support of the petition that went forward to the state delegation. And I think Laura and obviously a number of members of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee are here as well. Be happy to elaborate or answer questions that the committee may have.
Great, thank you. I think first and foremost, Vinny, if you don't mind just making sure that we attach Councilor Canellis's email and then the petition letter that we got just to the minutes, because we're referencing them right now.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So I guess we'll do the same thing we did the last issue. I'll open it up to any members of the committee that have any questions or statements or anything, and then we can open it up from there. I see Councilor Picciarelli has his hand up.
Good. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, one of the question that came up was that the petition that was actually, the online petition actually asked for a permanent closure of the road, and the letter from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee asked us to support asking the letter was actually a little bit different than the petition, and it basically asked us to support asking the DCR to evaluate traffic in the area and determine if a longer term or weekend closure is feasible, and then to specifically ask them if they could close it on the road on weekends next spring and summer. So I just want to make sure that we get our language precise here, that we're actually not supporting what was in the petition. We're actually supporting what was in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee's letter, which was slightly different. And I just want to make sure that that's, as we vote tonight, that's what we're voting to support, what's in the letter, not actually the language that's in the petition.
Councilor Feltner.
Thank you. Yeah, I get kind of two quick things. One is that based on some of the comments at town council meeting when this came up too, it sounds like DCR controls the road. And so I think there was a kind of a general understanding it'd be more if the council would support the state delegation, DCR, looking at this, as, doing a study, if you will, of what the impacts may be with the desire to have partial closing. That's kind of summary in my head, that we wouldn't be necessarily stating to them, we think you should do X, Y, Z, but what might that look like? My question is, have we done the history? Different people have asked me that at one point they thought, when the sale from the federal government to Watertown and Redevelopment Authority, that the property boundaries showed that it went to the water line of the Charles River. And I was just curious if any research had been done on clarifying Watertown versus, any Watertown ownership there, jurisdiction that maybe we don't know about in modern times or not. I don't know if you can speak to that, Steve, or not.
I can't say that I've researched that recently, but certainly every indication I've had is in that area, the ownership of the roadway and the adjacent parkland was DCR. But I'll be happy to check into that further.
That would be great. I think otherwise, I'm happy to turn it over to other comments.
Okay. I think what we'll do then is we'll open it up. I think the first person to raise their hand was Councilor Canellis. So we'll start with Councilor Canellis.
Oh, thank you so much. To give you just a brief history, closing of Little Greeno goes back to Diana Proctor being conservation chairperson, which is 35 years ago. That was always a vision of Diana's, to make that parkland accessible to all as recreation. But obviously we know that vision did not materialize. It was never approved because of the issues of linking one roadway to another. And as we know, the next open access legal would be Louise Street, other than cutting through private property, which was then the mall and now going to be even more congested as Arsenal Yards. I very distinctly stated my position, not that I oppose open green space, not that I oppose recreation. It's an issue of the happenings on Arsenal Street and all of the surrounding area, and the congestion that we are going to be faced with as a community. And by closing this roadway, we are eliminating this one link, this avenue that can give us a little bit of relief. It's like an expansion valve that would be available. And now we're talking possibly of weekend closing. Well, if we look at the traffic study for Arsenal Yards, the greatest impact on the community based on the theater and retail space, the greatest impact would be on weekends. Of course, that would be staggered over the 24-hour period, but I can give you a one, for instance, during this pandemic, on a Sunday morning at 11:15, returning from the car wash, I was stuck on the Western Avenue Bridge and not able to take a right-hand turn onto Greeno Boulevard because of the congestion attempting to get onto Arsenal Street. And that's a Sunday morning at 11:15 a.m. during the pandemic. So vehicles are certainly in the area. And as is customary, when we receive communication during these Zoom meetings, we customarily read the communication into the record. So I'd appreciate it if Councilor Piccirilli would read my document into the record. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Sure. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. While we're on the topic.
Okay, let me hold on a second. I gotta open the right email. So from Councilor Canellis, dear Councilors Woodland, Feltner, Piccirilli, my position statement against closing of Little Greeno Boulevard was sent to Senator Brownsberger On August 6, 2020, the same communication was read into the record on November 10th, 2020 Town Council meeting. Kindly make note of my rationale for support of the lack of support for the proposal and include in the minutes of the December 10th committee meeting. Thank you. It says, quote, open green space and recreation are the ideals that all communities strive to encourage and implement. In the Arsenal Street corridor area, I tread with great caution when a citizen initiative proposes that a roadway link is closed to vehicular traffic. And here's the communication from the November 11th meeting. It says, dear Will, Senator Brownsberger, thank you for taking the time to share the petition addressed to the Department of Conservation and Recreation that's being circulated to permanently close Little Greeno Boulevard to vehicular traffic. I was not aware of the petition. Open green space and recreation are the ideals that all communities strive to encourage and implement. In the Arsenal Street corridor area, I tread with great caution when a citizen initiative proposes a roadway link is closed to vehicular traffic. The impacts from the pending build-out of Arsenal Yards and the other development in the area are unknown. An excerpt from the communication I sent to the Watertown Planning Board on December 14th, 2016 references the Transportation Impact Assessment document. Arsenal Yards is anticipated to generate 6,000 to 10,000 vehicle trips per day. Quote, according to the Transportation Impact Assessment document, page 1, executive summary, the project is expected to generate 6,366 additional vehicle trips on an average weekday and 10,648 additional vehicle trips on a Saturday. Both are two-way 24-hour volumes. The prospect of so many vehicles in one concentrated area is overwhelming. Many of us will recall the January 31st, 2018 meeting that we attended, coordinated by the City of Boston, Mass DOT, DCR, and others to review short and long-term plans for the Western Avenue, Soldiers Field Road, Birmingham Parkway intersection. On page 44 of the document, there's a diversion analysis onto Little Greeno to alleviate congestion at the intersection and the eastbound approach to the Western Avenue Bridge. During conversations specific to I-Cubed, along with pedestrian enhancements, traffic signals were proposed for both ends of Little Greeno Boulevard. At this time, the status of I-Cubed is unknown. Herein, I am sharing the information with East Enders to be aware of the implications from ongoing and proposed developments. The answer may not be as straightforward as presented. Pros and cons abound. Thank you. And let's see, what else was there? And then it was just the other attachments were Will Brownsberger's original email. So that was correspondence from Council Canellis, which we will attach to the minutes.
Great. Thank you, Council Picciarelli. And again, I do apologize, everyone. I do have to sign off now, but I know that Amy was next.
Okay, and so Lisa, as the vice chair, will take over the meeting at this point.
Welcome, Amy. You've got the floor.
Hi, my name is Amy Plovnick. I'm a member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, and I've been sort of organizing on this issue related to Little Greeno. So I think the closure of Little Greeno over the spring and summer kind of opened our eyes to what this road could be, and having access to the river for recreation. And a lot of people in Watertown and nearby communities really enjoyed using the road when it was close to vehicles during that time. I can give a little bit of background on the petition that residents of Watertown and started to DCR asking them to reclose the road. And as was noted, the petition ask was more general. We've kind of evolved since then and are focused on a weekend closure and piloting that and collecting data on that. But in terms of the petition, we got over 400 signatures on that petition, and also a lot of comments in support. I want to highlight a few comments that that Watertown residents submitted on the petition. So one person said that we enjoyed using it this spring and were disappointed when it was open to cars again. One person said that I live within walking distance and love to inline skate that stretch when it closes. And another person said that back in May, both of our sons learned how to ride their bikes without training wheels on the closed Greeno stretch. And it was so special for them to be able to ride ahead slightly without fear of cars. So there were a number of other comments like that on the petition. I did submit the petition signatures and comments to this committee in case you want to take a look at any of the other comments and support. And we also have support from some local elected officials. State Senator Will Brownsberger has been a big supporter. We also have support from the current state rep, John Hecht, and the incoming state rep, Steve Owens. And, you know, as was noted before, DCR is the ultimate decision maker here, but we think that the town council support would go a long way in helping us to make the case to DCR and showing how this space for recreation could really benefit Watertown residents. And, you know, as was said before, you know, our ask to town council in terms of what we're asking of you all is a resolution or letter of support that highlights the 3 points that were in the letter from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee to Council President Sideris, that would, you know, potentially express support for the previous road closure over the spring and summer, ask DCR to close the road on weekends next year, and ask DCR to sort of evaluate traffic data in the area and determine what steps make sense for the long term. So thanks for considering this issue. I know several of the other members of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee are on as well, so they might have something to add. Thanks.
Councilor Feltner, Amy did send the email to me with those comments, and I will attach them to the committee report.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amy and Vinny. I wonder, before we hear from Hannah, Steve, I guess a question too is, with given iCube, is your feeling that DCR, if you know, if eventually this was a potential conversation based on the petition and endorsement from council, that you know, you'd have all parties at the table, so aware of iCube, what the status is of that, et cetera. Do you care to share what that might look like?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. So the status of iCube is still kind of up in the air. I know that Alexandria is pursuing iCube now. I think part of the conversation with that is, you know, what aspects of the projects would move forward or not. And if that changed, obviously it'd have to come back to the council. If, you know, certainly DCR would be a party to that as well. So I would think that they would take that into account if they were considering this request.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to clarify that DCR would, you know, be included in conversations around iCube and impacts.
Sure.
So Hannah, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Councilor Feltner. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm Hannah Rakoff, Watertown resident. I've been working with the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee on this issue. I thought Amy gave a great overview and hit some of the nice responses received on the petition. I wanted to also add another point that came up in discussions over the summer, which is that another way to look at the impact on those developments is, in particular, as many of them, and I'm not familiar with exactly which names, so I'll talk more generally. Many of them don't have, in fact, none of them have a car output onto Little Greeno. There is simply no, like whatever happens to Little Greeno, there is no direct access to any of those properties. So it's not reducing accessibility to any of those properties, I think one could make the argument that it is in fact adding enormous value to those properties to back onto, and with pedestrian access through the Commander's Mansion area, to back onto a restored park, a better bicycling and pedestrian area, that's a great additional value for those developers. The second point I wanted to make was, some of the comments talked about great access to open space during the pandemic when people want more space around them when they're outside. But I would argue that where we're really going to need this to keep up the bicycling and walking is after the pandemic, when it starts to be tight. Already I bike to work 2 days a week, and it's not easy on those 6-foot wide paths to pass somebody, even if your concern is not staying 6 feet away. I'm talking about your concern is not bowling somebody over or crashing into another cyclist. And I'm not going 100 miles an hour. I'm going maybe 12 miles an hour. So I think to keep people out of their cars, if we're concerned about traffic, we need to do something to get and keep people out of their cars. So that's another way to look at this, is that it's taking traffic away. There's a link there also to reducing carbon. If the state is serious about that, I think DCR would be open to looking at it from that perspective. And my final point is that this late autumn, DCR, this entire year actually, DCR has expanded Riverbend Park, which is the weekend closure of Memorial Drive, to cover Saturdays as well as Sundays. And they have also extended it from when it normally closes, which is the second Sunday in November, up until the last weekend in December. So I think we can see from that DCR has an appetite to enter into discussions that maybe they haven't entered into before, and that the town's support would really help. So with that, I respectfully ask this committee for your support on that. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could go to Councilor Anthony Donato.
Thank you, Councilor Feltner. I actually just wanted to reiterate a point that you made earlier this evening. I think most people are aware. My Uncle Tom Sullivan was the director of recreation for, I think 30 plus years here in town. And he is strongly of the opinion that when the land was transferred from the federal government to the town, that it included some, if not all, of Little Greeno. So I would, echo your suggestion that maybe the town try to look into that a little more. Now, obviously, if the state were to decide to do something else with it down the road, probably nothing we could do with that, but it might strengthen our hand in negotiations with the DCR if we can firmly establish what the town's rights are with regard to Little Greeno. So thank you.
Thanks so much, and for those comments. I see Steve taking notes there. So Andrew Campagna, Bike Ped Committee, I see your hand raised. You just need to unmute, Andy.
Sorry. So I'm the chair of the Bike Ped Committee. I saw the closure in April, or I see the closure in April as maybe an opportunity for us to maybe step back and reevaluate how we're using what I consider to be a very valuable resource. I guess the question would be, the town changes, riverfronts becoming increasingly valuable, neighborhoods change, and now might be a good time for us to step back and reevaluate, are we using this valuable resource? Are we optimizing the use of this valuable resource? And of course, my personal response to that would be, I think we could do better. Can we strike a healthier balance among all the potential users in Watertown? As valuable a resource as the river is, I don't feel like a lot of residents really have direct access to it. I think it is time to sort of take a step back, reevaluate, and say what's a healthy balance here. And I think that's all we're trying to do, is ask the DCR if they can help us with that evaluation. I see it as a good opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I see Janet Jameson's hand is. Hi, Janet. You want to unmute yourself? I don't think I can unmute you, Janet. I think you have to do it. Okay, maybe she was signing off instead of saying she wants.
There. No, I want to talk.
There you are. Okay, you're back.
Wait, get back here.
No worries. I know sometimes these buttons take a while to engage.
There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to support Amy in this endeavor because I totally agree with Andy too that Watertown residents don't have easy access to the river. And I remember when Dan Driscoll gave a passionate speech about Pleasant Street, about all of these buildings. Nobody can go to a restaurant watching the sunset over the river, that we don't have access to these things. And we have a perfect example with Memorial Drive. I mean, that's so used by the community. And that's a harder road to close because it has all of those major roads that intersect into Mem Drive. And they have to be careful about, how they do that. But we have nothing that enters into Greeno. It's just one ride. And I go over there often and sit just by the river. And there aren't that many cars that go through. I mean, there haven't been because of COVID, obviously. But it is mainly commuters who use that as a shortcut. And I think that, closing it for the weekend, at least to try it and see how it works, would be a wonderful idea. And we are trying to get people on their bikes and walking. And this would be an easy way to get to some of the happenings in the arsenal. So I just wanted to give my support to Amy and really thank her for all she's done, and for Hannah too. They've really done a tremendous job on this. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Janet. I imagine maybe this is a little mature, again, since DCR, our understanding is they control the road as far as we know. But Steve, I don't know if there was any input at all from Arsenal Yards, and I know the improvements are being made to be able to easily navigate the grade, if you will, from the property down to the river. Do you care to share anything in terms of from a development standpoint? And I guess my other question is, given COVID and the environment of retail environment and still a lot of changes coming in Watertown, I imagine you might be, or we might be looking at those traffic reports again. And how does that work in terms of any kind of evaluation to peer into the future possibly? And or we just stick with the standard models that we have now, when the traffic engineers use the different categories for volumes and things like that?
So a couple of things, Counselor. To start with, you asked if we got any feedback from Arsenal Yards, and we did receive some comments from them concerned that that closing Little Greeno would impact negatively the assumptions that were made when they did their traffic analysis and mitigation package, and they were concerned that they would have a negative impact. To answer your second question of sort of how do we evaluate going forward the impacts of the pandemic and what that's going to do to traffic, I think the short answer to that is, while I could make some assumptions, I'm not sure anybody really knows how the traffic is going to sort itself out in the short term. Assuming that a vaccine is on its way, which seems pretty likely, I think people will begin to get back to some form of normal. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that people once again are comfortable riding the T? And, those forms of mass transit return to similar levels as before? Or does it mean that, nobody wants to get in a bus with other people and single occupant vehicle ridership goes way up? At the same time, does it mean that, a lot of people continue to work from home and just not go back to the office? I think there's a lot of unknowns that I don't think it would be prudent for us to, really change our assumptions just yet. But as things evolve, we will need to reevaluate those things and see where we are. And, I guess to some extent, that's part of what the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee's request is to do some evaluation and look at this as an opportunity potentially. And I think to some extent, that's the question before us is, do we want to ask DCR to do further analysis and look at that in terms of this road closure, or are our concerns about traffic impacts and the loss of that as an alternative and the impacts it would have on things like Louise Street and some of the other local roads enough to say, no, we really shouldn't evaluate that further and ask for closures?
Are there any other members of the public that wish to add anything, Jill or Alan, or hasn't spoken yet, or?
Council Fellner,
Yes.
I did want to recognize that we got an email from Tom Sullivan, as Councilor Donato said, and I was just wondering if, since he sent it to us specifically about this issue, I was wondering if I should just read it and then attach it to the minutes. Would you be able?
That would be great. I also I just noticed a couple short comments in the chat. I don't know if we should read if you want to read those aloud too, but that would be great, Vinny.
Okay, yeah, let me get that. So this is from Tom Sullivan, former recreation director. He says, I believe in the late 70s, Greeno Boulevard extension was reconstructed. The old road was torn up for a short while. The land lay idle. I had the pleasure of going to that area on a few occasions. It was a great experience of solitude by the Charles River, Watertown's answer to Henry Thoreau and Walden Pond. Over the years, I've used Greeno Boulevard extension as a cut through to get to areas of Brighton and beyond. I could have used Louise Street, going through the Arsenal property to North Beacon Street at Charles River Road, or going to Market Street in Brighton. I personally would trade off the shortcut for the peaceful access to Charles River from Arsenal Park. The area of Arsenal Park that abuts Greeno Boulevard extension has long been neglected. Cleaning up the overgrowth in that area would be both visually improve the area, but also improve the sight lines to the river. Terrace the area by the foundation of the Foundry building and add benches that would give people a nice view of the river. The edge of the Arsenal property along North Beacon Street should also be looked at for improvements. It's an area that serves as an entryway to Watertown from Boston and should present a good image of the town. So so I will attach that for the record. There's also two other comments in the chat that I'll read from people who had to leave. One was from Elodia Thomas. It says, I have to leave for another meeting. Why not consider a close down on Sundays for a test run and then evaluate? And then also a message from Joe Roars from Marion Road. It says, I also have to sign off and say I enjoy having access to Little Greeno. In particular, it has parking at either end, which is very helpful for people. Okay, so those are the two comments in the chat.
Thank you very much. Steve, it looks like you want to say something?
I think Jill Royer's was longer. So for some reason you must not have seen the whole thing.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, I didn't scroll down far enough. It's very helpful. Thank you, Steve. Sorry, this is technical issue, user error, let's put it that way. Particularly it has parking at either end, which is very helpful for people with limited mobility who can't walk far, but can enjoy sitting on the bench and get there via car. Weekend closure is worth considering, but please don't close it permanently. I also agree with Councilor Canellis' concerns and wise input regarding Arsenal Street development. Thank you for asking. I have to sign off, but thank you for having this meeting. There's also a message here from Alan F. Alan, could you please give us your last name for the record, please? I see you're on here. Alan? Generally speaking, we don't take anonymous comments. So if you're, Alan, if you're willing to give me your last name, I'll read your comments. Otherwise, I'm not going to read it. So.
It says Alan Fortin, 141 Coolidge Avenue.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, great. So it says, I am unsure why this is even being discussed or even necessary, as there are already miles of green space, trails, and bike paths accessible by pedestrians, joggers, and cyclists to use on both sides of the river. With that, I have a few questions. Number one, if the road is closed, who will be responsible for erecting and taking down the barriers? Who will be tasked with enforcement? Number two, there are 2 public parking lots located at Greeno Boulevard, each capable of parking 15 to 20 cars. If Greeno is closed to vehicular traffic, it will create a difficult situation for those with mobility issues to drive, park, and utilize the green space bordering the river. Number 3, once things return to normal, pre-COVID days and the Arsenal Yards is fully open, I would anticipate Lower Greeno becoming a well-used route for people traveling by cars to reach that particular destination. If Lower Greeno is closed down, I'd be greatly concerned about any residential side streets being used as an alternative shortcuts. Thank you, sir. Thank you for providing us your full name.
So,
okay.
Vinny, I don't know, you haven't shared your thoughts yet. I don't know. For me, I don't really see a downside in endorsing that DCR take a look at this with the town, with community development and planning, and their, our knowledge of developments coming online, and what the status of iCube is, and a lot of things in flux. And rather than saying, oh, we think you should do XYZ, I mean, of course, for the residents, maybe they say, well, here's a window on these 2 days and it's not the weekend. I don't know, but be interesting to see what the potential could be, I guess. And I don't know, Steve, if you feel like even if they did that because of a lot of unknowns with COVID and the changes we're going through, that it would be too temporary, or they felt like it couldn't be a definitive enough statement, or if there was willingness to do a pilot until Arsenal Yards really gets up and running and there's a problem. I don't that's how I'm feeling. So Vinny, I don't know what you think.
One second, I'm just trying to copy.
I know
this.
it's hard to. It's hard.
I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do.
And do minutes.
do too many things at once
Steve,
here.
if you look like you.
So my feeling is COVID-19 was such a huge impact. It actually gave us time to do some things, do some experiments that we would not normally do. And one of them, say, example, was closing this. Another one is, for example, was outdoor dining. Things that we as a community were afraid to do because we were afraid of the impact. I think, as an experiment, we saw, from basically April through July that it was closed, the road was closed. And it really didn't have any kind of impact on the surrounding traffic. As things are getting back to normal, we are not quite sure what the new normal is going to be. But I do think that some of these road closures, maybe make sense going forward. I think, and I understand, the comments that we heard, which were all good, and certainly Councilor Canellis's comments were well taken, as well as others. That I think it personally, I believe that this merits some more examination. Whether we close it, say, Saturdays and Sundays for the spring and summer and the fall, whether we just start by closing it on Sundays. I think we could examine, and I would be more amenable to say our letter would be to ask the DCR to work with the Department of Community Development Planning and the DPW to explore the possibilities of doing a pilot program to close Little Greeno Boulevard on weekends next spring, summer, and fall. And let's see where it works. And I think as the Arsenal Yard, as you know, is coming online. They're looking to start leasing some of the residential units. The movie theater hopefully will be opening soon, some of the new restaurants. And I guess, as Steve Magoon said, I don't think any of us can really know what's going to work or what's not going to work. I would maybe put this in the same category as we did with the dedicated bus lanes on Mount Auburn Street, which there was a lot of concern that would cause tremendous problems if we did that. So we did it as a very limited 3-month trial program. And at the end of the trial program, the impact ended up on cars ended up being minimal, while it greatly had a tremendous positive impact on the people taking the bus. So I'm not afraid to try experiments to see what works. And the worst thing that could happen is, we close it, and after 3 weeks of it being closed, there's total mayhem surrounding Arsenal Yards, and we call it off and go back to normal. I mean, that's the worst that could happen. But we may, we're not going to, this closure is being done with, cones and barricades. There's no actual physical structure being built. And to the point that both Jill Roars made and Mr. Alan Fortin made, is I think we need to keep those open for people to park, because both people with mobility issues as well as families with children like to come to the river and they need a place to park. So we keep those 2 parking areas open, close the rest of it with cones, see how it goes. And then take it from there. So I would be inclined to write a letter asking that the DCR to evaluate traffic data in the area of Greeno Boulevard between Arsenal and North Beacon, and determine if a long-term or weekend closure is feasible, and ask the DCR to work with the Department of Community Development Planning and the DPW to explore the possibility of doing a pilot program to close the road on weekends in the spring, summer, and fall. So I will throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, and I like that you put some time frame on it, so it does, we could not let it drag out, and then, as you said, I imagine too, if it's see how it goes. They may, who knows, maybe they come out and say, not recommended, we're not going to go for it. But I agree with you. The whole world has changed. There's so much in the air. Things, I'm hoping one of the benefits, if you will, if you can have a benefit during the pandemic, is that we're willing to try to take some risks that could have a positive benefit, and like you said, not be quite so gripped with fear of any change, and be a little just willing to try some new things. I mean, people are very excited about this new area coming online, and it's looking to be, I think it will be very successful, and we're not trying to, do any undue harm. if you will. And if that's the case, is this looking like the case, just like we've done, you know, like other communities when the marijuana first opened, right? And we're overwhelmed and say time out, and then you have to figure it out. But I'm feeling the same way. I don't know. Do you think we make a motion to that the council support such a letter?
Well, I think so, and again, I would just, you know, so I would say the motion would be that the town council to write a letter of support and ask the DCR to evaluate, well, basically what was sort of in the letter. So we write a letter of support to the DCR, the full town council to write a letter of support to the DCR to ask them to evaluate traffic data in the area of Little Greeno Boulevard between Arsenal and North Beacon, and determine if a longer term or weekend closure is feasible. And also ask the DCR to work with the Department of Community Development and Planning and the Department of Public Works to explore the possibility of doing a pilot program to close the road on weekends next spring, summer, and fall. So that would be the motion that I would make. In fact, I will make that motion.
Okay, I'm going to second that motion.
Okay. And then, so if we want to have discussion, it's up to you, Ms. Chair, here, since you're chairing, if you want to ask.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to, as well as any, Steve, do you in particular, Laura Weiner, have final thoughts that you, Laura, I know we haven't heard from you. You've been working on a lot of.
And in particular, I think it's important that Steve and Laura, that, you know, that you're comfortable with this recommendation we're making.
I think it sounds great. Sounds right to me.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, well, all in favor.
Roll call. Roll call. Councilor Feltner.
Yes. And Vinnie
And myself is yes.
Councilor Picciarelli.
So that's okay, good. And I just want to, I see we still have some members of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee here. I just want to make sure, you should perhaps ask to make sure that they're okay with this also.
Oh, sorry, yes, I thought, okay, Mr. Campagna, as chair of PED, we heard from Ms. Weiner, and
yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Is there anything on our part? Any next actions for us, or?
I don't think. I don't think so.
When it hits the council agenda,
And I do want to, I just do want to say that, I certainly, I went to all the meetings about the Arsenal Yards as well as the other projects in the area, and I know the impacts, and I do take Councilor Canellis's concerns very, very seriously. But I think a pilot program will allow us to do a little experimentation, and the worst case is, if it doesn't work, we could just terminate the pilot early and go back to normal. So I see this as a very low risk experiment for the community to try.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you. And also, yeah, very valid concerns. Otherwise it wouldn't be, mitigation wouldn't include two traffic signals. But anyway, I'm pleased with that. I don't know, care to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call. All in favor? I think we're all set with that. Okay, great.
Thanks, everybody.
Great work, everyone. Thank you, Lisa, for taking on this too.
Yeah, sorry Ken had to leave early, and thanks for all your good minutes as usual.
Okay, it's just, yeah, it's like, so thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.